guys, welcome back to Clearly Becoming, a podcast all about empowering ambitious individuals as they navigate their career and life in general. I know it can be daunting as a 20-something-year-old. I also provide research-backed insights as well as practical tips, basically where theory meets reality, so that you can actually implement them into your life. And this is your reminder that you can be ambitious and confused at the same time. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, get cozy, get a little coffee, whatever you might need, because I'm going to go into a story time. And this is the time that I thought I got fired over a Teams message. And yes, I know I'm being a little bit extreme for the drama effect, but I swear I literally thought I was the most useless employee. And so what happened is that I worked from home 2 days and then in the office for 3 days. And what basically happened was I had just realized that on an HP laptop, you can swipe through different desktops. I know I'm ancient, low-key a grandma with technology, but what happened is that I didn't hear the Teams notification ping because it was on a different desktop. And I don't know if that's a thing. Maybe my audio was off. I don't know. Could just be me really bad at technology again, but I did not hear that Teams message ping from my manager twice. So I looked back and I checked and I was like, oh my gosh, I had missed a Teams message ping and it's been like an hour ago. And I was low-key freaking out because I was like, oh my gosh, normally I try to respond really quickly. And, I was just spiraling because that's who I am. I make things more extreme than they really are. And it's also my first job and I'm still getting used to how everything works and how to communicate best. And, I feel a lot of pressure to do well at my job. Obviously, I also want to do well in general. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. So all of these things just add up and accumulated and made me overthink and also made me feel really stressed and anxious at the same time. And so one of the tests was about a real task that I need to do and another about something to do in a meeting. So really it wasn't a crisis, but it was still like things to do. And then again at 5 p.m., you can see on Teams and everything, like when people have walked away and how long they've been away for. And so normally I check, especially on like work from home days, to see like when everybody else has logged off kind of. And so they've been away for like, 10, 15 minutes. So I was like, okay, cool. Like it's after 5 p.m., which normally for my work, we end at like 5 p.m.-ish, especially on like work from home days. So I was like, okay, cool, I can log off. And I actually went to go film my podcast, one of these episodes. And when I film podcasts, I use my phone and I have do not disturb mode on because obviously I don't want anything to disturb me. But turns out I got a ping on my Teams message at like 5:10, and then another one asked me to do a task, and then another one at like 5:15 saying that they'd already completed a task. And so I was freaking out even more so because not only did I miss a Teams message in the beginning of the day, but I also missed one again at the end of the day, and they already did it. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I am the most useless employee. Like, I didn't even do the task that was assigned to me, and I logged off too early. I didn't respond to the text message. I'm failing. I'm gonna get fired because, I'm so worthless. Like, why did they need me? Why did they hire me if they can just do it themselves? And so basically, I was getting really overwhelmed and really stressed and just spiraling and going into these hypothetical situations that probably never would have happened. And I'm sure we all do this, especially those who are perfectionists. I understand you. So yeah, I was just like building all these cases that they don't need to me and proving basically to myself that I was worthless. I was using all my beliefs and experiences to basically form evidence about a claim that I was making, which again has no data to prove that. Literally, I was just making things up. I had no idea what my manager was thinking. And so I talked to a friend about it. I went for a stress walk around Central Park, and then I went for a stress run in the morning. And my mom had told me that, you should just talk to your manager about it and bring it up and apologize and say if there's something else I can do. So I went to my one-on-one with my manager the next day and I brought it up and I apologized. And the funny thing is that my manager didn't even notice. She was like, I was on the dock anyways. It was just a quick thing. And yeah, it's no big deal. Don't worry about it. So basically, I created so many hypothetical, stressful claims and assumptions about what she was thinking without even really knowing what it was. So all of these assumptions made me freak out, made me spiral, when in reality, it really wasn't a big deal. So, why do we make assumptions and why do we catastrophize things without really knowing the reality behind it? And so, I want to get into the nitty gritty psychology, neuroscience concepts that explain this and how we can overcome that barrier of making assumptions when in reality, it's really not that big deal. So, first, I just want to preface that catastrophizing things and making assumptions is not out of the ordinary. Actually, it's very common. And I just wanted to list some stats because, especially in our generation, Gen Z in the workforce, 77% of Gen Z workers say that workplace communication is a minefield of anxiety. 77%. That's a huge number. And 30% specifically fear that one-on-one conversations with their managers. So it makes me feel better because it shows that a lot of people are probably spiraling over team messages and miscommunication and everything like that. And that was by Edu Birdie survey or Edu Birdie survey. Can't pronounce things. And then another thing is that 40% of Gen Z say they feel stressed or anxious most of the time at their work. That's 40% of Gen Z who feel stressed or anxious at their work. And that was by Deloitte survey and a millennial survey. So really it's a whole generation problem when you're feeling stressed and anxious. It's not just a you thing. Also, more than half of Gen Z workers report regularly dealing with imposter syndrome on the job. Basically, they feel like they don't need me, I'm worthless, I'm useless. That's how I was feeling. And these are very, very common thoughts. So next time you think that you're the only one, just remember that it's really a whole generation problem, and a lot of people are dealing with these same things. So don't worry, you're not alone. So a common thing that we do is that we mind read about other people. And I think one of the reasons that we mind read and make assumptions is so that we can anticipate and be proactive about our behavior and action. And if you think about it in the early days, in like the caveman days, we need this. It was like our fight or flight response or fawn. And if we saw like a predator coming, what would we anticipate? We would anticipate that they would eat us. And so we need to run away. We need to be proactive in order to survive. But nowadays, this thing isn't as applicable. Nobody's really eating us, and we don't need to survive on that level. However, the brain hasn't caught up to the environment now. And so we're still trying to mind read to survive. Also, we have this confirmation bias. What the confirmation bias is that we try to confirm the thing that we believe. And this can be a very dangerous thing, but it's also a very common thing. And so what this does is that if we believe that we are worthless, we try to find evidence to deem that we are worthless. And so that's what I did. I tried to find things and nitpick things like, oh my gosh, I didn't respond. That makes me worthless. Oh my gosh, my manager hasn't responded. That makes me worthless. Oh my God, like we catastrophize things to prove that point because we want to be right. And this leads into the perfectionist tendencies. And there's this alarm that goes off in our brain. And there's research done on error-related brain activity, ERN. I believe I mentioned this in my mistakes episode, but it basically shows that people with high perfectionism have a higher internal error signal even after doing something correctly. And so basically what this is saying is that even though we've done something correctly, we still have that error signal. We're still heightened. We're still a little bit more stressed, even though we might have done it correctly. And so basically what it's saying is that this alarm signal doesn't know the difference between a mistake and a non-event. A non-event as in it wasn't that big deal. And I think this is really poignant because it shows that we have these error signals that light up even if things aren't that bad. Basically, it's telling us these fake news because of our sensitivity to perfectionism. I feel like perfectionism really stems from either your childhood or your upbringing, or even it's just innate in you, but it's the way that you perceive things about yourself. And more, I'm realizing that our tendencies are really based on our perceptions and also how we communicate with ourselves. And when you say things that like, I'm worthless, you start to believe it. And that's what I'm saying with the confirmation bias. So when you say that I am a perfectionist, you tend to start finding things to prove that you are one. I think this is why labeling can be really harmful sometimes because you get stuck in that box. And that's why it's so important to say, instead of I am, say I feel, or I tend to do things like a perfectionist, because then you're not really identifying with it. And then it doesn't have such a strong tie and hold onto you. You can then detach from it because it's not who you are. It's just sometimes the things that you do. And so when you are having these perfectionist tendencies come up, just remember that you are not tied to that thing, you can detach if you want to. And so this goes back to all like habits and actions, and I can definitely lean more into it and showcase how language is so important into your perception. I honestly think that everything is based on communication and relationships with others and also yourself, and that is how you can facilitate change. There's this case study called the spotlight effect, and what happened in the study is that they made people wear an embarrassing shirt. And these people that were wearing the embarrassing shirt thought that half of the room would notice. But actually, only 1/4 of them noticed the embarrassing t-shirt. And I think this can be applied to other things in our lives where we think that people notice things, but they don't. We tend to notice more things about ourselves and nitpick things than others do. And this happened with my team's message. I thought I was worthless. I thought I was stupid. I thought I was incompetent. But really, that's not what people were assuming. And so you can see how we're so much harder on ourselves than we are on other people. I mean, I remember doing this when I was in middle school. This is really stupid, but this is actually a pretty good example. That I don't really have double eyelids, but I have a little bit more of a double eyelid on one of my eyes than the other. I can't remember which one. And I thought everybody noticed it. I was like, oh my gosh, I have different size eyes. Like everybody's going to see it. And so I bought this double eyelid tape, and it's really stupid. And I used to put it on when I was a freshman, and I would do it in the morning, whatever it was. But really, nobody noticed. It was something that I noticed only, and I was really insecure about. And as I grew up, I realized like it doesn't even matter. Like my eye shape is my eye shape. And honestly, these little things that nobody else noticed, but I do, they just make me who I am. And again, it's so easy to just concentrate and fixate on these little things that don't even matter. There's another thing that people did a study where they put this black ink on a white t-shirt, and the teacher hung it up in front of, I think, those middle schoolers and asked them, what do you see? And they said, oh my gosh, there is a black stain. There's a black dot on the t-shirt. And everyone said it. And the teacher said, that's so interesting that none of you said that there is a white t-shirt. And so it's so easy to fixate on the little problems and not to see the whole big picture. And so that is called the spotlight effect. And so basically all that to say and summarize is that nothing is really as bad as it seems. And I do want to say that I take full accountability for not replying to my messages. I definitely am a lot more conscientious that I put my notifications on, I have my volume on as well, and that you do have to take responsibility for your actions. I'm not saying what I did was the best thing in the world, but it also wasn't the worst thing. This is where I think there's a balance between acknowledging what you did and reflecting on it and making sure that you change from it, use it as a growth thing rather than self-deprecating and thinking that you are a horrible person. It's not that bad. Like you don't need to catastrophize over it. Instead, use it as a learning tool to improve and do better on. And so, yeah, I'm definitely not saying that, just to like disregard this thing and think everything is good. Obviously not. Learn from your mistakes, but learn from it, not demonize yourself for it. And so now let's move on to what can we do with this information. So these are some of the things that I did when I made my mistake and some things that I wish I could have done in the future and things that I will definitely implement. And remember, change is hard and I might have to learn this lesson over and over again. I've definitely made tons of mistakes, which I hate doing, but it always humbles me and teaches me something. So you know what? It's okay. Number one is the 2-minute receipts check. And I also do these written receipts, as I think I mentioned in a couple episodes, but it's just like learnings for the week. And so this really helps you to not spiral and get into that anxious realm that you're in. What it is that you can set a timer for 2 minutes and grab your notes app, grab a notebook, whatever it is, and put down 2 columns of what you know and what you are assuming. So this helps to train the brain, like what is actually real and what is not real. Because interestingly enough, your brain actually can't differentiate between imagination and reality. Fun fact. So example is what I know is that I didn't reply for an hour. What I am assuming is that I'm incompetent. So you can see that these are 2 very distinct things, and yet sometimes the brain meshes it. But when you put it out and put it into columns and you can visualize it and you can see it, it makes it so much more clear about like what are you assuming and what you know. And I think this can help you not spiral as much. Number two is the direct ask. So this is going into your one-on-one or even messaging. This is just directly asking about the issue. So you can say like, hey, earlier this week, I didn't catch your messages as early and I didn't respond to them immediately. I was just wondering if this is something that I should change moving forward. Do you want me to respond a little bit more quicker? And are we good? Don't over apologize or over explain yourself. One sentence, one direct question, that's it. Because if you start over apologizing, people tend to see you not as confident person. And when you, I think, over apologize too much, you tend to sound a little bit inexperienced as well, which isn't, I guess, the best thing that you want to portray, especially early on in your career. And then just let them talk. If they respond like, hey, yes, I would like you to respond earlier, then respond earlier. Use that feedback. And if they said, no, it's all good, you're good with that, just take it into account, maybe like it's okay this time, but don't repeat the action over again. Number three is the friend interrupt script. When I did this, I went to my friend who's also in their early career and I asked him like, hey, be honest with me. I didn't respond to 2 messages from my manager. Is this really a bad thing? Like, did I mess up? Is this something that I should be worried about? And use their insight as a reality check. If they say it's a bad thing, then make sure to talk to your manager about it because it could just be a contextual thing because obviously every industry, company is different, every person is different. And so that's when you definitely want to ask them. And if they say like, hey, no, I think you're like all good, it really wasn't that bad, I think that helps with the spiral. I just think getting some extra insights can really help you have that reality check with yourself because it's no longer just you feeding your confirmation bias. It's somebody else bringing in a fresh perspective, which is why I think perspective is everything. I also talk to my mom. I feel like parents always give the best insights on these things. And then number four is the feedback rehearsal. And something that I think can really help you moving forward and also help me moving forward is that when you spiral or if you tend to catastrophize things really easily, personally speaking, that feedback was something that I have really had to embrace and get used to and work on is receiving that feedback because it's not an easy thing, even constructive feedback. But I think the more you practice how to receive it and practice using it to learn instead of taking it as hits towards your ego, which I think is really why feedback hurts a lot of the times, the easier it gets over time. And so you can just ask your friends or whatever just to give you mildly critical feedback over low stake things like, what do you think of my outfit? Or what do you think of the meal that I cooked? Or what do you think about this text? And then they could say like, honestly, it could have been shorter. Like the text message could have been shorter. Or I don't think that top goes with those bottoms. Or I think this could have used a little bit less salt, whatever it might be. I think then you can start to implement this feedback, use it more. You've had more experiences. Now you can learn from them and it doesn't hurt as much. And I think the main thing about when you receive this feedback is to not over apologize and not to spiral with it. I know it's easier said than done, but I think this can really help you grow as somebody who receives feedback. And it's like the whole thing, if you can use an analogy in the gym, like the more reps you get, the stronger you'll be. So the more feedback you get, the stronger you'll be at receiving the feedback. And it also teaches yourself and your brain that you are okay, like you are safe. Nobody's out to get you. Nobody's going to eat you. Nobody's going to harm you or whatever it is, the less your brain will have these fire alarms going off and the error related negativity signals, especially for those in those perfectionist tendencies. Yeah, I think it'll help you in the more high stakes situations when you receive more feedback in the low stake ones. So I hope those things help. I'm just going to summarize again the practice things. It's the 2-minute receipts, the one that what do you know and what are you assuming? Number two is the direct ask. Ask the person directly. Was it that bad? Don't over apologize. The friend interrupt script, ask somebody else for their insights on your mistake. And then number four is just implement a little bit more feedback into your daily life at low stakes. So that is everything that I have for today's episode about spiraling and thinking that your mistake is going to ruin your life. It's definitely a common thing to do, so you are not alone. I definitely have the experience as seen in this episode. Don't beat yourself up about it and remember that every single mistake is a learning. It's not something that you should dwell on. And really, it's important to detach yourself, especially detaching your ego from that mistake. And as always, I'll close this off with who am I clearly becoming? I am clearly becoming somebody who is learning that perception is really everything. How you perceive words is so important. There is such a difference between being lonely and being alone. And just noticing these differences, I think, can really change how you think and how you behave in those experiences. So that is someone who I am clearly becoming. And I hope you really enjoyed this episode. I hope it helps you not spiral or catastrophize situations and just learn how to use mistakes as learnings as well. And also how we really, really nitpick at the little things where instead of just seeing the entire picture as a whole. So definitely send this to somebody who is spiraling over that team's message or mistake or whatever it might be. And definitely comment below, share your thoughts, subscribe so that I can continue making these episodes. And I hope you guys have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.